everybody, welcome back to HitPoint, a JRPG news show, an anime news show, a niche news show, a discussion show, where Baku and I talk about anything and everything that catches our interest. We broadcast live every single Sunday, except for the ones when we don't, at 7 p.m. Central, 8 p.m. Eastern Time. We'll be previewing some trailers, talking about rumors. We'll be responding to super chats at the end of the episode. Baku, how you doing, buddy?
Oh, doing a lot better. I think I slept like 15 hours yesterday.
No
It
kidding.
felt good. Felt good.
Why?
Got all my sleeps in.
What happened? What possibly threw you into that coma? You didn't go to another concert, did you?
No, I think I've just been lacking sleep recently. So yeah, at the first chance to catch some Z's, I took that opportunity to not wake up. Saturday, I think I slept from maybe like 3 a.m.
Oh
because I
God,
was streaming.
that's pretty late. Yeah.
Was it 4 until like whatever 7 p.m. the next day.
Oh my God,
Something to that
that's
effect.
ridiculous, man.
And then I was up for maybe like 3-4 hours, and then I went straight back to sleep and woke up this morning.
It's wild
it
to
was
me that you stream
fantastic.
so late when you do, because like when I first found you on YouTube, I didn't know where you lived. You know, I didn't know you were Eastern time zone. I assumed you were out on the West Coast because like I would be like streaming and then I would be tired and I would stop my stream and we go raid you because you'd keep going for like another 3 or 4 hours because you're a madman. And yeah, so I don't know what possesses a guy to keep streaming so late, but I appreciated it quite very much.
Well, thank you, sir. I appreciate you. So, hey, speaking of, what have you been up to?
Man, I have released a couple of videos last week, in addition to
saw.
the episode of HitPoint that I was very
it-
excited about.
3 videos?
Well, 3 videos if you included the episode of HitPoint, which I, of course, did. I worked on this video, so I count
Sure
it.
did. I saw the what is it, the community poll?
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
like, did you know I dropped 3 videos? I was like, you did?
that's right. I sure did. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I might have been, fudging the numbers on math a little bit because
Yeah, it's okay.
this doesn't even feel like I'm making a video, honestly. This is just having fun. But you know what? I am very glad that I also put out, I think, a YouTube short, and I put out a video on Wednesday talking about, well, just a discussion video about whether or not Square Enix should be purchased by Sony. And I kind of explored what the best case scenario of that would look like. TLDW, it's honestly, it's not a good idea. And it was never going to be a good idea. But I just wanted to see what could this look like in a in the best case scenario where an altruistic Sony comes into our lives and just unleashes the floodgates. That's kind of the perspective I was approaching it from. But yeah, it's very unrealistic.
Well, you know what? It's warranted though, because there has been a lot of chatters, right? And
yeah, because people have been cheering this on. They're like, yeah, Sony should buy this. And I'm like, I don't think so. But sure, let's say for whatever reason, if you're right, if they should, here's what that would look like. And, and even that, I couldn't help but stumble into some reasons that maybe that's a terrible idea. Like never being able to play like a Square Enix game on a Nintendo Switch ever again, like a Bravely Default game or something like that. But
yeah,
and then on Friday, I've released a experience points video talking a little bit about a game that I played called Alterium Shift, which you and I, we talked a little bit about this. We gave away a couple of codes here a few weeks ago for the early access of Alterium Shift. Man, that game is under some fast development, let me tell you, because I was like, I'm going to play this game this week and, try things out. And by the time I put out a video, they already released bug fixes for some of the bugs that I ended up talking about. They're moving really fast on this. And I think it's a game that's going to be worth a lot of people's time. Anyways, that is what I'm aiming to be my new, knock on wood, production schedule moving forward. Is I'm hoping for, Sunday hit points, Monday's going to be, or Wednesday's going to be the a discussion video, and then a
Mhm.
review or first impressions video on Fridays. Hoping that will be sustainable, but we'll find out as we continue. So just
Yeah.
just something I'm a little bit excited about.
I'm excited for you too, man. Having a sustained schedule and a full-time job,
Here's
that's something.
here's what I found out about what really helps me with
Mhm.
keeping up a production schedule is
Not streaming as much.
well, I mean, yeah, that definitely helps. But the other thing is
Mhm.
actually not having is before I have a production schedule,
Mhm.
or before I have a release schedule, put together a
Mhm.
production schedule. That way I know I actually have the time to do the things that need to go into that release schedule. So
Yeah.
hopefully it feels like something pretty sustainable right now.
Mhm.
As long as I have so many games I can still play for small chunks of time and give impressions on, I should be
Yeah.
okay. But
Are you still making progress in Trails though?
oh, Trails in the Sky, the
Mhm.
third. No, wait, no,
That's just the sky. I'm like,
Trails of
what?
Cold
What?
Steel
Yeah.
3.
Yes.
Oh, there's so many Trails games.
So many trails.
That is done. I finished my playthrough.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
and I've
And
actually
what?
finished writing my review of it.
Mhm.
I'm currently editing my review of Cold Steel 2,
Mm.
and hoping that maybe not this coming Friday, but the Friday afterwards, because I put my episodes of the game collection out to supporters of the show a week early, so I gotta finish it, put it out to the supporters early, and then I can do that. So hopefully, the Friday after this Friday, we'll have a Cold Steel 2 review ready to go.
Very nice. All right, man. Yeah. I was watching one of your old experience point video recently,
Oh yeah.
actually, because I was playing that game called A Space for the Unbound. That's what I've been streaming, and
Oh
it's
yeah.
surprisingly long. Not in a bad way. I mean, it's bad for me as a streamer and not being able to plan like adequately, but not
Yeah.
bad for a person who wants to enjoy this game. It's just more to love. So
The Space for the Unbound, man. It's
yeah,
how far? Can I ask how far into it you are?
I
Is there a?
am in chapter 5. I just
Oh, you're
started
pretty. You're
chapter
pretty far
5.
into it then, hey?
Yeah, I know. I'm getting close.
Did you say this is
Um,
a game you're playing on stream or off stream?
Well, I started on stream because there was like a sponsor stream from the devs. So they're like, oh, yeah, here's the game. And I'm like, cool, okay, I'll stream it for you. And
Yeah.
then I streamed one stream and it was so good that I did debate. I'm like, do I just want to finish this off stream? And I'm like, you know what? This game is so good that I'm just going to finish this on stream. So
Yeah.
I thought it's going to be a 2 stream deal,
Mhm.
3 streams in, and we're still not done. Like,
Yeah.
unbelievable. Yeah, I think I'm like 13 hours in, which I did not expect. I was expecting this to be a sub 10 hours game. I was wrong.
Yeah. So was
Um,
I. I was also very wrong about how long it would take. But I
yeah.
I also played it off stream, and I feel like it's one of those games that I finished it for a reason.
Hmm.
Even though, gosh, did I finish it before I did my impressions video? Do you?
No, I don't think so.
Yeah, I
I,
did
I
the
think,
experience
yeah.
points video, and then I continued to play it and
Mm.
finish it shortly thereafter. It was, it's a game worth playing for yourself. Like, and I know that that's a weird thing to say. Like,
Hmm.
for a lot of people out there who are listening who are not Twitch streamers, that probably sounds like weird to mention, but because like,
It
why else
is.
would you
It
play a
is.
game?
It is.
But between people who stream their gameplay, like there are some games that you play because you want to hang out with the viewers, but there are
Hmm.
some games that like you don't want to see like you don't want 100 people in the chat to like watch you like hold back tears for a minute as like something really real. Like you don't want to have to worry about being like, okay guys, so here's what happened, in the last stream. Here's just a content warning for anybody out there who might be sensitive to these subjects. It's like to not have to worry about doing that sort of thing during a stream is really nice to just sit and absorb and be absorbed into the game instead of having to play the game whilst putting on a show, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Though I'll tell you that game is something else
It
in,
is.
in the storytelling. I would
It
definitely recommend it for folks. Yeah.
Yeah, it's not an RPG, but it is a niche game that I think a lot of people with RPG sensibilities might enjoy. It's kind of like it's kind of like an RPG without the combat.
It's an adventure game, is what it is,
Uh
right?
huh.
Like I
Yeah.
guess we'll call it that.
Yeah, sure. An adventure game, but like you
Coming
get
of
key
age.
items. You get key
Yeah.
items, right?
Hmm.
And you take them to different areas to try to solve different puzzles. There's
Hmm.
mini games. The fighting mini game was
The
kind of
Ace
fun.
Attorney, the Ace Attorney was.
Oh yeah.
Oh, that was hilarious.
Hmm.
Yeah. So I'll tell a funny story, and then maybe we can move on. But I was streaming the game, and some Indonesian viewers actually came in through various times.
Yeah.
One of whom came by, and we were talking about all the foods that they talk about. They make it so that they don't localize any of the food. No jelly-filled donuts in any of the stuff. They just tell you
Yeah.
exactly what it is in Indonesian. So I asked them, it's like, well, I know Indonesian foods is spicy as heck, and I love spicy foods. So what's the sauce that you guys use over there? And they gave me two brands basically. They're like, oh
Yeah.
well, here's like the default, and then this is like my personal favorite. I ordered both. And they're coming in. One came in, the other one's still coming in, and I can't wait to try it
Oh, that's
with
awesome.
all kinds of food. So I like that this is allowing me to connect with people in different ways. I love food, and who knew that I can connect with people in games and in food,
Oh yeah.
all on the same go. So that was pretty cool. So I'll let you guys know how that goes once the other sauce comes in.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah.
So, in keeping with the changes from last week, Baku
Hmm.
and I are going to continue to have a more conversational sort of episode this week as well. And it seemed like a lot of you really enjoyed what we did last week. But we will go ahead and kind of start again with our usual fare of responding to some of the comments that were left on our last episode. Starting with this one that we got just before the show started today from Lowest Expectations, who said, I wonder if Derek and Baku will read this super chat late comment on the next episode. Eyeballs emoji. Yep, that was the one. That was your chance for no, but seriously, we do actually about right before every episode of the show, we
Mhm.
scour through the comments looking for new and interesting topics to talk about, and this one just caught my eye because it was so meta. There you go, lowest expectations. I hope you had
Exactly.
lowest expectations for that comment. All right.
Man. Next we got one from Kill Repeat, who said, I'm part of the lawn mowing club. I listen to the podcast when cutting my grass or at work. The news is definitely vital, but I tune in to listen to two people just talking about video games. Thank you so much for writing to us. And yes, we love talking about video games.
Man, I hate mowing the lawn.
I hate mowing the lawn.
It is such a chore. I mean, there are some people out there who find it like meditative and stuff, and I
Hmm.
can kind of get that.
Hmm.
But generally speaking, it feels like such a waste of time. Like as somebody who like I mowed my dad's lawn from the time I
Hmm.
was like 12, 10. I don't know exactly how long. As soon as he started realizing that he could pay me to do it, he could pay me $10 to do it, just to not have to do it. As soon as he realized I was money motivated, I was mowing that lawn. And man, podcasts were not a thing back then. When I was
Hmm.
10, it was what, 96, 98, maybe. The iPod didn't come out really until like '03 or something like
Hmm.
that.
Yeah,
And
still a
that's
couple
when
years out.
podcasts. Yeah.
Yeah.
So all I had was my Discman. I had a Discman I could listen to, which meant I was like blasting AC/DC live on my Discman. It was an early version of a Discman that did not
Hmm.
have any sort of buffering or memory within it. So like every time you
Hmm.
would step, it would just cut out, and then it would start playing again, and then you'd take another hard step and it cut. So you got really used to like pushing them over, but also like walking like your own personal Steadicam gimbal or something, like just walking really smooth,
Mhm.
try not to jostle the disc man.
That's funny as heck, man. Um, yeah, I actually paid someone to mow my lawn because once I did my math, I realized that it didn't make sense. The time spent keeping a machine, purchasing the machine, gassing it, just to mow. I don't have a whole lot of grass,
Hmm.
either.
Yeah.
So over time, it just like doesn't make sense. There's maintenance costs, whatever. Like you have to store the thing.
Hmm.
Yeah, it just didn't add up. So I just
I'm
end up
thinking
paying
about.
some people like $20 a month.
I actually have a decent sized yard, but I'm thinking
Hmm.
about switching to like a electric one. They are really
Mm.
nice because
Hmm.
one of the reasons that I never mow my lawn as often as I should is that it's always out of gas, and I
Uh,
never remember to take a gas can down to a gas station.
hmm.
We have one car, and Amy uses it to go to work. I use my e-bike to get to and from work when I do, so I never have to go to a gas station with my electric bicycle, which is a really rad bike, by the way. And so yeah, I just never have a reason to go to the gas station, so I never get gas. And then yeah, it's overgrown half the time. On the bright side, it's filling in nicely all the
Mm.
bald spots. Who knew that was the trick to filling them in, is just to stop worrying about it.
Man.
But yeah, yeah, mowing the lawn sucks, and I'm glad that we could have a discussion to help get you through that, for the next one. Although with
Yeah.
the heat wave right now, I'm guessing a lot of the lawns are about to go dormant.
Hmm.
It's gonna,
Right.
it's pretty hot out there. How have you been faring out there, by the way? West Coast or East Coast has been getting hit pretty hard.
Yeah, yeah. Well, it hasn't helped to get all that smoke up from Canada
Yeah,
that's been blowing down. And of course, it's probably even worse for them. Like if it's this bad here, it's got to be like 20 times worse up there.
yeah.
So, the between the smog and the heat, like this year's been pretty miserable. So I just been staying indoor.
Ugh.
It's just
Good call. This is the
yep.
perfect time of year to stay indoors and play RPGs. Cover your windows, close your blinds, and just hunker in
And
your
I'm
bunker and try to keep cool.
And I'm still somehow behind, which I don't understand. Like I've tried my best to finish these games.
Ah, man.
Man, I
So,
know.
the next comment that we got from one of our commenters last week that caught
Hmm.
my eye, from Sparkling Cyanide, one of my favorite drinks, says, one of the slowest news weeks becomes one of the greatest interesting episodes.
Oh, thank you.
That's so nice. Very
That
much
is
appreciated.
nice.
So, yeah, a lot of positive feedback on our discussion last week, and I really cannot wait to dive into some of the questions that we have ready for this week.
Hmm.
But before we
Man,
do, oh, go ahead. What
no,
were you
no,
going to
no,
say? Oh,
nothing.
oh, okay, okay. I was going to say we do have one more comment that we received via voicemail today.
Oh,
Uh,
okay.
and we received it via email, actually. So yeah, if you have any comments or voicemails that you would like to leave us, you may do so at 785-337-3805, or you could also do as this gentleman did by emailing us a MP3 file or something like that to
Hmm.
hitpoint at superderekrpgs.com.
Hello guys, Ben from Finland here. I have been subscribed to Derek's channel for 5 to 6 years now, and I have been listening to Hit Points on Spotify since February.
Oh, wow.
Apologies to Bagu though, since I'm not on Twitch, so all of my exposure to you is through this. But my question for you is, ignoring the everlasting pain of our existence, which is the backlog, how do you view replayability JRPGs personally? What makes JRPGs replayable to you? Are you looking for replayability in general? How could JRPGs improve on the replayability other than New Game Plus, job class systems, or alternative endings, or any other takes on this topic? Thank you for all the
Mm.
hard work and entertainment you have given to us. I'm looking forward to listening to you for foreseeable future. Cheers!
Cheers.
Wow.
Thanks, Ben.
Thank you. That's so cool. That's so nice.
Yeah,
Man,
international viewership. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, Finland.
Yeah.
Wow. All right.
I hear it's a really fine land. Okay.
It took me a second.
So,
Uh-huh.
did you catch the whole gist of that message? We're talking about the
I did.
replayability of RPGs, and what's your initial gut reaction on that?
After that pun, we lost 50 viewers.
I know. Wait, we had 50 viewers? Oh my goodness.
We had more than 50 at the peak. Okay. Yeah, no, so thank you again for that. I think it's Ben. Thank you so much for that voicemail. Replayability probably meant a lot more back in the Super Nintendo days, right? Like, remember how we talked about like adjusted inflation, a game costs XYZ amount back then, and like compound that with the fact that games didn't that there weren't that many games. I felt like they didn't come like there just weren't that many
in the US at least. In Japan
the
probably
US,
there were a bunch, but like in the US JRPGs, like what we got were a very small subset of like of the broader things that were released. We got some of the Dragon Quests, we got some of the Final Fantasies, and those are the big name ones. And if we were getting all of them, then
I mean, it's like three factors, right? We were broke. I mean, we're still broke, but we were even broker. We had like zero income. Most of us, I don't know. Well, maybe we have like some older viewers who were already working, but a lot of us, if we were there at all, we were probably kids, no income. Okay. Expensive games, again, relative to, to the price index, right? And also, they don't come out often. So replayability back then mattered a lot. You want that extra mileage, right?
Yeah.
Like
that was how you could justify to your mom. You'd be like, "Mom, I need this game for my birthday because this game, Mario, I can beat that in 3 hours. But if you get me this RPG, I can beat that in 100 hours." And then, well, actually, probably more like 25 hours if I'm being honest about Super Nintendo. and then I could play it again and again to get all the treasures, and again to get all my characters up to level 99.
I convinced my parents to get me RPGs because they are less violent than fighting games, which also explains why I never got good at fighting games, because my parents had thought that those were too violent. And so, casting Meteor is definitely less violent than, throwing
So you got Final Fantasy VI instead.
Instead of Street Fighter. Yeah, that's exactly it. No, true story. That's what happened. Okay, but that's back then, right? But now we're talking about now. Nowadays, my hour is worth more now than buying the game itself. So replayability all of a sudden doesn't matter as much as you respecting my time, right? So with that being the basis, I think replayability comes in when a game is genuinely fun, that there are additional challenges that you can take on if you so choose to, because it is fun to do so.
Yeah.
Not because you locked away story. That's not good. Like locked away true endings, I think that's the worst.
I agree.
You're not respecting my time.
Yep.
Right?
It's true.
Make it so that I'm doing it because it's fun, not because I'm somehow obligated to see all the stories. That should just be part of the core game at this point.
I do agree with that. Even though some of my favorite games do have multiple endings, and the true endings are in fact the best, like Persona 4 or Trails in the Sky the Third. You hit the nail on the head. Like replayability should not be achieved at the expense of the first playthrough.
Yeah.
Like by taking away content from the first playthrough, like you're not improving the second playthrough, you're just making the first one worse. So I think that, personally speaking, there aren't at this point, it doesn't feel like there's a whole lot of ways to improve replay value outside of offering different routes through a game, which Western RPGs tend to do pretty well. You could side with one side or another. Bethesda comes to mind because that's the only Western RPG series or developer who I've played many of their catalog. But like you could align yourself with one faction over another, join one guild instead of another. You know, playing through a different route through the game could provide you with a lot of replay value. And one JRPG that does this really well is Hex's Force, a little PSP RPG that nobody really knows about at this point, I think. It was pretty well known for being expensive back in the day, but then a reprint came out and now it's cheap as chips, as they say. But Hex's Force is a game that allows you to choose a protagonist at the beginning of the game, Levant or Cecilia, I want to say, and you can play through the game as that protagonist, and they literally have two completely separate routes. That is the correct way to do things. There is an alternative, worse way of doing things where, like Sword of Mana on the Game Boy Advance also allows you to select the protagonist that you play as, but then it basically gives you the same story. It's just a different character that like that you see on screen, like scene for scene. It's very, very similar with only minor differences. But Hex's Force is like a second campaign. So you have to play it twice in order to get the full story. Persona 1 also has a hidden campaign, the Snow Queen quest. And that actually was omitted from the original release on PlayStation 1. So you have to play the PSP version if you want to play that, the Ice Queen quest. I think that's what it's called. It's been so long, but I think that is the real way to offer replay value, is to ensure that you are giving a different experience each time. The things that used to count for replay value, like Star Ocean, the second story had something like over 100 different endings. Like, I'm not gonna go get all 100 different endings, especially when they're all just kind of different variations of who's paired with who at the end. Like, that's not really, that doesn't really qualify in my book. It's neat. It's neat as all hell, but you know, I don't need to play a game in a very specific way to make sure that the people I shipped end up together, you know?
Star Ocean 6 still did that.
It did?
It not only did it do that, it's hard to know who you even getting. There's no indication until basically the very end when you saw the scene. So trying to collect all the different people, it's a little rough if you even want to do that. It's a very outdated kind of like thing to do, I think. So, you know, Star Ocean 7 maybe do something different. But yeah, like Fire Emblem is pretty good, like Three Houses, like aligning with different factions, right? So that definitely one there. From the more like old school games like Trials of Mana from even like the Super Nintendo, being able to select different protagonists, and based on the protagonist, you may or may not get different bosses along the way, a different final dungeon. But
I forgot about that, but that is a great point.
Yeah. The fun one though for that game is you get different job classes even within the same, even if you have the exact same character combination.
Yeah.
You could still progress their classes. They're like four ultimate classes for each character, and they all have different like abilities, right?
Yeah.
So it's like, okay, how do I mix and match these, right? So there was a lot of replayability, but that's the thing. That's the fun.
Exactly.
Part,
if it's
right?
not fun, I'm not replaying your game.
Yeah,
Bottom line.
Don't force me to replay the game because of story. Like, entice me to play it because it's fun to do so.
Yeah.
Easier said than done, I know, but
yeah, it is easier said than done. But you know, but that's also, I think, that's, I mean, the caller Ben did also mention, you know, that's all backlog not included in the equation at all, right?
Yeah.
Like at this point, even though I think some of those other routes through the game might be really fun for certain games, there is very little chance if I'm being realistic, that I'll ever replay a game ever again. I mean, except for Earthbound or something with very low replayability that just is near and dear to my heart, because that's the other thing. Like replayability back in the day, it wasn't built into the game. It was just you would replay it because you wanted to. Like I didn't replay Breath of Fire over and over and over just because like they gave me a different route through the game or because I was playing on a different difficulty level. It was because I wanted to extract every ounce of fun and every like hidden treasure that I could possibly get from that game. Like that it was my own drive to play the game again that gave it replay value, right? And I think that's what a lot of games, I mean, it's nice that they have things now for like New Game Plus, but I don't know. It doesn't it doesn't sweeten the deal really for me. It doesn't change the equation.
So you know what New Game Plus was for me? What I think New Game Plus was intended to do and what it became.
What's that?
So go back to like the let's say go back to like mid 90s, right? Like 95, right? Like we're playing Super Nintendo. You're playing Chrono Trigger for the first time.
Yep.
Okay.
And I think that was one of the first games with New Game Plus, by the way.
Yeah. So you're playing Chrono Trigger for the first time. You
Yep.
found out that there are multiple endings, right? Okay. You found out that there are all these secrets.
Yep.
Okay. So you go through the game one time, you get a New Game Plus, you get stuff carried over, makes your second gameplay easier so that you can just kind of blitz through and just find all the other secrets, right?
Yeah.
That's the point of New Game Plus, is so that you have an easier time going through all this, because back then you basically have to discover these secrets. Like Tactics Ogre, I think, is one of those games that I spent a lot of time playing.
Yeah.
Because there's this there are all these characters, you don't know how to recruit them. There are multiple paths in Tactics Ogre, like lawful and chaotic, and through that you have different stories. You can save your sister for certain dialogue choices, and you can save certain other people by doing this and that. No one will tell you how to do it. There are no online guides. There's no online, right?
Yeah.
And you may or may not be able to find stuff in print from like magazines and whatnot. You have to discover these things on your own.
Strategy guides.
Yeah, so you
If you
basically have to.
If you're a high roller, you have a strategy guide.
I know. If it even exists, because it's not like every game has it, right?
True.
So yeah, so you kind of figure it out, and that's the fun. And there were no save states. So and there were no save states. So you'd have to load from a certain save point and then get all the way back there. So New Game Plus helped try to make it easier.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
It definitely did.
Yeah, but fast forward to today, New Game Plus is an excuse to extend your playability now, because everything is online. You don't need to necessarily explore. You can get through everything in one go. And in fact, I would say that with people being so busy nowadays, I would encourage game developer to stop like trying to hide things that are missable to make people play it again. It's just frustration at this point. It's not fun. Stop it. I'm looking at you, Falcom, hiding all my ultimate weapons in the Trails in the Sky. I was like, are you serious? You need to go back to that one place and talk to this one guy to get a book. Otherwise, like, you don't. I was so mad. I was so mad.
This is why I play every Trails game with a spoiler-free walkthrough.
Yeah,
because I gotta get the best weapons. Although honestly, you don't even need them. Like the game,
I
break
know
the game
I didn't,
so
because
easily.
I never got any of them because I keep missing like 1 or 2 books. Yeah. Even with the guide, I'm just not good at following directions, so it's okay. But yeah, no, but the point being is, if I really wanted to anyway, like I could follow it to the T. I could do it. I could get through it. I can have many saves. It's fine. We could do it in one go. No more do we go back and try to figure these things out ourselves. So what the heck is the point of New Game Plus anymore, right?
It really does. It really does raise the question. Also, like one of the things that Trails did on the subject of that is in New Game Plus, you would get unlimited bonding points in the Trails of Cold Steel series, which is basically being able to interact with more people a la Persona style, like going on, well, not dates, but like having events that play out. Like you could only see like 3 of them in a given day before, but in New Game Plus, you can watch all 10 of them if you wanted to. But it's like, that's cool and all. Or I could just watch them on YouTube.
Yeah.
You know, so it's cool that New Game Plus is a thing, but also with the advent of the modern internet, it doesn't really feel like a lot of the rewards that might have driven me at one point are still as driving to me anymore. So, I don't know. Anyways, that's a great question. A solid question there, Ben. I appreciate your voicemail. And if you guys at home have a question that you would like to ask to Baku and I, or a comment of some sort that you'd like to leave us, you may do so again at 785-337-3805, or you can send us a voicemail or file over at HitPoint at SuperDerekRPGs.com. All right, so real quick, I wanted to swerve off into a brand new segment of the show.
New segment.
There we go. And it's just a question of the week. And that maybe that was too much fanfare for what this actually is. But guys, I wanted to start asking a standardized question of the week where Baku and I will have a question that is burning in our souls, and we just want to know about you guys at home. And I want you to respond to some of these, and we'll probably respond to a lot of these in the comments and possibly in the next episode of Hit Points. So if you could bring back any one element from classic JRPGs to modern games that just seems to have disappeared for some reason or just become a lot less common, just one, what would you bring back and why?
Just one.
And I think you know what, next week I don't want to poison the well or sway anybody. I think next week I will bring an answer to this question myself for us to discuss. But
I already got one.
Do you?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Easy question.
I can't wait to hear about it next week. It's supposed to be a pretty easy question because I want to hear from you guys though, because there's so much though. The hard part is picking just one, I think.
Yep. No, we were just talking about this over at my Twitch, and so I have a little bit of head start in thinking about this, and I did come up with one that I really want to see. So yes, so looked forward to see all of your answers.
Yeah, it's gonna be a lot of fun. All right.
Someone said hard. Don't play SMT. Go play Persona.
Hey, Persona is still pretty tough, I'll have you know. Legitimately, it's not as hard as SMT, but Persona does kill me far more often than most other RPGs I start playing out of nowhere. It goes a little bit hard off the, at the start. So let's talk about some of the, updates to previous games.
All right. So this first update, and I wish that I can show you guys the Amiibo, but it has to do with Xenoblade Chronicles 3, which I recently finished. Amazing game. Definitely recommend that to everybody.
Everybody,
Nintendo,
even me?
Even you.
Even me who hasn't played Xenoblade Chronicles 1 or 2? Should I just dive into 3?
No, I mean, I recommend the entire series to you, but
okay.
I have to say, if you must just play 3 and you really cannot play 1 and 2, I'd rather you do that than not play the games at all. Maybe it would intrigue you enough to play 1 and 2. I don't know.
Well, I have a feeling that I'll be taking a detour through Xenoblade at some point, probably when I'm done with Cold Steel.
Yeah, whatever.
Is that going to be my next big project? I don't know.
I would love to see it. I mean, Xeno is, great for a reason. There's a lot of people who are like, "Yeah, this game is really underrated." It has got the same kind of vibe as Trails back then, in a way that like a lot of fans are like, this is really underrated. Why is that? I mean, Trails, I don't feel like it's so underrated anymore. Like, there's a lot of people who knows exactly what Trails is. The fans have made it abundantly known what
Cold
this game is
Steel
about.
Cold Steel
Yeah.
has really been the breakout that has continued to propel it into the mainstream. It's still
Yeah.
not as big as Final Fantasy or whatever,
Yeah.
and honestly, it probably should be, but
Yeah.
but
So
yeah,
yeah,
it's
but
not
it's
it's not
not.
the unknown darling though.
Yeah. A Xenoblade, I feel like a lot of people have shied away for it for one reason or another, and so it's relatively good compared to how many people have had a chance to play it, I guess, is where we're getting at. So in that sense, it's got the same vibe. So hopefully that changes over time, because I truly do feel like that trilogy with all the DLC and expansions will get your fields hard. Um, so with that, let's go back to talking about the updates for this
Oh yeah,
game,
yeah,
though.
yeah.
So Nintendo released a new patch that adds compatibility with the new Pyra and Mythra Amiibo and allows both the Age of Swords use as cosmetic items for the Sword Fighter class in the base game. So if you happen to have ordered the Amiibo, and I did share with everyone where to get them,
Oh yeah, you did actually.
I did. And in fact, they were still selling them at Best Buy in the States. And I did make a post on Twitter, just so people are aware. And if you still couldn't catch that, then I can't help you. In any case, mine's coming in on Monday. So like I said, I wish I could show you, but some people already got theirs. Nice little amiibo, sold out everywhere already, I think, at this point. But if you happen to get one, you can add those Age of Swords into your game. Now, if you didn't get the amiibo, well, this patch might still matter, because they did some fix ups in the game. So, that's the update.
Cool. There's also NFC emulators, just in case anybody
Oh yeah,
wants these things without actually going to buy the
I
amiibos.
forgot about those. Yes.
Yeah, you can totally just get them without getting them, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Depending on what phone you have, or what other devices you have. I think, what was that, like, there's like this tiny little orange device. I can't remember what it's called. Linus was talking about it at one point. I think it
Yeah.
has that too. Anyways, that's pretty cool. So let's talk about some of the games that are coming out this week then. Starting. Oh, what was that?
Nothing.
Oh,
No,
okay.
no.
Okay.
I'm just waiting on you. Yeah.
Okay. Looked like you're about to
Yes,
take a
yes,
breath,
yes.
like, yeah. Okay. Okay.
Yep.
So, starting with Yggdra Union, Will Never Fight Alone. We talked about this during the last show, but just a quick reminder that the remastered version of Yggdra Union will be leaving Steam Early Access on the 27th, and will also be available on the Nintendo Switch that same day. So
That's right.
get ready for that. But do we know if there will be a physical release, or is it
Doesn't
digital?
seem likely. I haven't seen it at
Yeah.
all. Yeah.
Well, keep your eyes
So-
peeled on PlayAsia, because sometimes they come through when
Yep.
stateside doesn't.
They have like they have a Japanese version way back, but I don't see like an English subtitle version. But
Yeah.
I could just have missed it.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I'm really excited for this. Not because of Yggdra Union per se, but just if it does well and the other games can do well, I'm just really hoping they bring the series back. This is one of those series from back then that just like didn't survive the time for whatever reason.
Yeah.
So
So it's kind of a second shot at
Yeah.
main of getting its.
I feel
just
like it's such
desserts.
a great series. Same with, Same with like the Ogre Battle series. It's like those two are the two series where they have it's very similar in the sense that like they don't go in like an order in releasing the game, and they kind of bounce back and forth for whatever reason, and they basically just like never made new games past like the 90s or the early 2000s, and it's such a shame. I'm hoping that they will come back and show us a good time.
Please.
Yeah. All
Is
right.
that what you would bring back from old JRPGs? Is this developer?
No.
Okay.
We thought of an element that we would bring
Yeah,
back.
I
Yeah,
know.
this
I was
is
just
something
kidding.
else. Yeah. I'm being greedy now. I'm asking for more. All right. I'm glad to see that they're still alive. Anyways, moving on, we got another game. This one is quite the unusual tactical RPG
Oh God,
called
yeah.
the Great Ambition of the Slimes will be out on PC via Steam on July 26th. This is the game where you control a group of slimes, the weakest of all the monsters, but they have the ability to possess and control human characters, making them suddenly some of the strongest people on the battlefield. So let's take a look at that trailer again, so that we kind of remind ourselves what this is all about.
I had completely forgotten about this game until I read the title, and now I'm really excited all over again.
Great Ambition of the Slimes.
Yeah. So
Nope, wrong game.
Oh, wait, wrong game.
Wrong game.
How did that happen? Oh dear.
I got the right one. It's okay.
Oh geez.
I got the right one. Yeah.
Okay. Yep, that's the one.
Yeah. Still no English trailers. I don't know why.
Who needs English, really?
Yeah, who needs it?
Slimes
Who
speak
needs
Japanese. I think we all know that secretly
Yes.
deep down, slimes all speak in Japanese.
So I think you have to capture them for a certain amount of time.
Hey, that's
like,
English. Look,
Yes.
yeah. This is absorbed, and some of the text on screen, that's English.
Claimed.
Yeah. Wait, move, attack. Look, it's all, yeah. What more do you need?
I think this is really cool.
It
It's
looks so cool.
Yeah.
It's
yeah.
it's like a nice mix of 8-bit sprites on like a polygonal background, kinda not too far removed from Alterium Shift, or other PlayStation 1 era games. I love it. They look so nice.
Yeah. So there you go. This is this is actually a sequel. I think the original game is just the Ambition of the Slimes. Now this is the Great Ambition of the Slimes.
Oh, cool.
Yes. All right.
Well, we have one more tactical RPG that comes out this week. Tactical RPG fans, man, they are just doing well.
Yes.
Yeah. So Arcadian Atlas, you got I just noticed that the
Wait, what?
the titles on the dock are backwards. Arcadian Atlas is a tactical RPG. Wait, no. Okay. Okay, I'm sorry. I just didn't read. Nope, we're good. If a slime-based tactical RPG is not really your taste, we have another one here that is a more traditional narrative-driven one called Arcadian Atlas, and it's coming out on the 27th. So we have a trailer for that we're going to watch as well, because this one looks awesome.
Yeah, we haven't talked about this one in a while, so...
Yeah.
I think we looked at this when it was first announced.
I think we also looked at it when we got a release date announced for it.
Yes.
A couple weeks ago. Yeah. And this is a bit more of like your Final Fantasy Tactics Ogre looking kind of game. And it's coming out on the 27th.
I think it's going to hit those kind of fans right there. Like you want like deep stories with like betrayals and some level of politics probably. I think this is gonna be it. I'm actually really excited for this one.
Yeah, I'm pretty stoked, and I think I'll probably be taking a look at it here pretty soon as well. Now there will be a physical release of this game, as well as a 2 LP vinyl OST coming from Serenity Forge Games sometime later in 2023. So if this game looks like it's up your alley, and if you are a hipster like me who likes playing physical discs on your record player,
Mhm.
then keep your eyes peeled for that. So yeah, Serenity Forge Games. Found out about them a little bit ago and hoping to see. So here's the thing: it looks like Serenity Forge does physical releases for games that are also on Steam, and in
Huh.
addition to console. So I don't know.
Oh.
So I don't know if this is coming to console or not in the future. But at least if if you're into PC games, but have a very small physical release stack of your PC games that came out after the year 2005, then you can add this to your library. It's gonna be pretty awesome,
Right. Oh man, those were the days.
right? Ah,
All right. I remember needing a disc to play the game. Otherwise, it's kind of like a DRM kind of deal, right? Yeah.
yeah, and it never
Um,
worked. It never stopped pirates. It only ever
no.
stopped people who owned the game from being able to play it.
Oh yeah. Silly. All right, we got some new game announcements. This time is from the developer Enrolled and publisher McRoids. They're releasing a new game based on a super robot from the 70s called the
What?
UFO Robot Grendizer, the Feast of the Wolves. Yes, Grendizer. Now, for those who don't know what that is, Grendizer was an anime series created by none other than the legendary Go Nagai, who also is credited for creating the Mazinga and the Guitar Robo. So this game will
Oh,
follow the first story arc of the anime series, the Grandizer anime series, and allow players to relive some of those most iconic moments. We've got a trailer that came out some time ago. They don't have a new trailer, but we'll take a look at this real quick and
okay. I'm not much
yeah.
of a mecha person, but I've definitely heard of Getter Robo.
This
So
is just funny for
so
me to
I'm
see.
I'm very curious to see what this is all about.
It is coming out on PlayStation in 2023 with PS5. I was like, what is this about?
What year
Uh,
is it?
yeah, I was like, what?
Oh my god. I
Yes.
I recognize that. I don't even
Yes.
know where from.
That's Grandizer, the UFO robot. Back when UFO was the buzzword for cool robots. It transforms into a UFO.
Dude, that's sick.
I did not expect to see this in 2023. No one. I did not expect seeing a Grandizer game in 2023. That's crazy. And a brand new game, no less. Now, this game is coming out on November 14th for PlayStation 4, 5, Xbox One, Xbox Series XS, and the PC via Steam. It will come out to Switch later in 2024. It's, man, how did you even know about Guitar Robo? That's
I
even
don't know.
even that is like what?
I don't know. I've been a child on the internet for a long time. And back in the early days, I'm guessing that was probably one of the things that I stumbled across at some point. I've heard of Getter Robo. Don't know what it is.
Mhm.
But that, oh my god, that looks
It
there's
looks
something
pretty good.
it looks really good and it looks weirdly familiar considering I'm almost certain it's one of those things where it's like it looks familiar because it inspired so many things that would follow. Like
Mhm.
now that the more I think about it, it looks kind of like the Megazord ripped it off pretty hard. Like maybe that's it.
I think Power Ranger definitely got a lot of inspiration from like the Super Robot series, of course.
Yeah,
Like
has to
what?
have. And
Yeah.
Voltron as well for sure.
Yeah, it's somewhere between Super Robots and like Tokusatsu, like it's kind of like Mass Riders, or like Godzilla, right? Where like you actually have a man manning the suit and filming it that way.
Oh, that's
Yeah,
cool.
it's like somewhere between the two. You get these like Power Rangers, right? You get these
Yeah.
heroes, and then there's like the super robots that they ride. Pretty awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So we have one more game that is coming out Oh no. Yep. That has been announced, not coming out. That is coming
Mhm.
out, or no, it has been announced, and that is One Piece Pirate
Yeah.
Warriors 4. I didn't think we'd get a new announcement for a new game from One Piece. For a game that, oh yeah, well, I also didn't expect we'd get one for a game that came out 3 years ago, but here we are.
Yeah.
One Piece Pirate Warriors 4 will be getting 9 new playable characters in 3 separate waves of DLC. Wave 4, which is the first set of DLCs announced, will be available in September and will include Gear 5 Luffy. So
Yes.
let's check that out. Oh,
So yeah, they recently had a One Piece event, basically.
yeah.
And this game came out 3 years ago, as you mentioned, and no one expected them to have new DLCs 3 years later. But no, Bandai Namco had different ideas. Bandai Namco was like, you know what? Instead of coming out a new game, we're just gonna give you new characters. So here you go. Go.
Well, I mean, they just released One Piece Odyssey recently, so I'm like, why are they DLCing other One Piece games? Like, you'd think they'd focus on one at a time.
Oh, they did DLC. They did DLC.
They did that, yeah.
They did that, yeah. So this is something else, yeah.
Yeah, so they're like,
It's-
okay, we're done with that. Let's go back to this thing from 3 years ago.
Well, I think it's because the One Piece Odyssey. Yeah, One Piece Odyssey is like a spin-off, right? So I guess
Yeah.
they couldn't add the newest story elements to it as easily as this, where
Okay.
this is just like a Muso game. They can just create new scenarios and just throw it in. Like
Okay.
it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
I said that. I guess that makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah. But I'm just surprised that even 3 years later that they would still come up with new DLCs.
Well,
but here we are.
I mean, remember that time that Nintendo put out Mario Kart 8 and then didn't touch it for like 5 years and then put out like new tracks for it? Like,
Oh, true.
it was the weirdest thing. It was the weirdest thing that they. So I guess they're not alone. You know.
Yeah, I will say that Muso game is a lot more fun when you play with friends.
Really.
When you just Muso game is a lot more fun. You just play with friends. You just running around, just wrecking havoc everywhere. By yourself, it's like it's okay. It's a little repetitive, but playing with friends, that's fun.
All right.
Yeah.
Is there a way to? Well, I guess I was gonna say. I guess that like Drakengard isn't Muso, is it?
Drakengard? No, Drakengard is an action
Yeah.
RPG.
Yeah.
And yeah. Oh God.
I was gonna ask if there's a way to play that with multiplayer, but there isn't. I'm sure. But
yeah. No,
I
unfortunately,
never
not.
really got into the Dynasty Warriors games, but well, maybe
It's very repetitive.
it kind of feels like it would be that way.
Yeah.
All right, we have some other game stuff to talk about. Starting with some industry news.
Yes.
So just a little information about Gamescom 2023 here. It's going to be running from August 23rd to the 27th in Cologne, Germany. I hope I said.
We're gonna get yelled at by our German viewer again. It's not Cologne. It's like I don't know what.
Yeah, it looks like the English word for cologne. So yeah, if you need to book your tickets to Cologne, Germany, it's spelled like the smell good stuff.
Yep.
Now, Bandai Namco is among the confirmed participants and promises some exciting new games to be unveiled at the event. So, yeah, if you want to go smell what the Bandai Namco is cooking, you can find it in Cologne, Germany.
I think it's pretty interesting that like a show like E3 is just effectively gone, and then a much smaller place like Gamescom is getting bigger names like Bandai Namco came in. So it's like, what's going on? Like I thought the whole thing is that like these live expos are kind of dying, but apparently not, right? So we're definitely gonna cover what's coming late August. So I think it's gonna be a pretty busy time for us again.
Yeah.
Around then. Yep. In on another news, we've got two pieces of news for Nier Automata, the game that Square Enix just can't stop milking. It's like it's Nier Automata is basically Square Enix's Persona 5.
I was gonna say,
Yeah.
it's like that guy who like peaked in high school and he keeps talking about like that one time that he made the touchdown for the big game.
Oh, yes, yes, it's like that. Remember that one time that we made this really cool game that no one thought it would do well, but it did really well? Yeah, let's talk about that again. So,
Yeah.
this is actually interesting. Square Enix announced the Nier Orchestra live concert tour series called 12024, The End of Data, which will actually promptly start in January 2024. Let's see, 2024. Actually, in fact, it's going to be January 24th, 2024. I don't know what's the significance of this number or date, but here we are. And this tour is going to last all the way into late March. There will be 7 concerts playing through in 7 different locations, starting with Los Angeles, US, in again January 24th, February 3rd in Chicago, US, February 10th in Berlin, Germany, February 17th in Barcelona, Spain, February 23rd in Paris, France, March 16th in Bangkok, Thailand, and then coming back to the States at Orlando, Florida, US, in March 30th. So if you are like me and you are a big fan of like orchestral kind of arrangements and you also really like game music, see if one of these cities is, close enough to you to reasonably travel to. It could be a really cool experience. I'm hoping it'll be something like the Distant World series. So Distant World is the Final Fantasy like World Tour series. I've watched a couple of those. Those are really nice. And Square Enix just has great music in general. So really cool. Another thing that they have announced is that there are going to be some extra not live reading, recorded dialogues that's going to add to the Nier Automata experience. So I wonder what that's about. Definitely not going to the concert just to listen to that. But it's going to be recorded in English in case anyone's wondering if they will understand it. I think you'll be fine. Yeah, so I've already bought tickets for one of those shows. So I am really looking forward to seeing that.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's one piece of news for the Nier Automata. We've got another piece of news here. Aniplex and Crunchyroll have finally released the last 4 episodes of the anime called version 1.1a. On Crunchyroll after severe delays due to COVID. Now, they've also confirmed that there's a second season in production. So, for those who don't know, basically the first 12 episodes that are out now covers the first half of the game. So now the second season, we would expect to cover the second half of the game. What I'm really interested in knowing is if they will give a different ending. Because if they don't, then at this point, it's just basically like same thing. And I thought that we were promised that it was going to be different. So I'm curious as to see whether or not Yoko Taro will hold that end of the promise and actually give us something new at the end.
That's a good question. I don't know. Guess we'll just have to wait and see, but hopefully they pull through and manage to provide something more. Maybe
Yeah.
What do you want to bet? It's like they do it the exact same up until the final episode. And then it's like
That's a good question. That's a good question. I haven't seen the other episodes yet, so I might feel differently once I watch like the last 4 episodes to the first season.
Yeah. Well, that about does it for the industry news. So it's time for us to move along to our, it's no longer our brand new section, but one of our most newest sections to HitPoint, talking about some of the discussion topics that Baku and I kind of thought on throughout the week, and some of them were suggested to us in the chat and in comments of the video, as well as one that came to us in the Discord server that actually I really kind of talk about. This one came from Chicken Inspector in the Discord server, who was talking about how they kind of grew up in a town that was really driven by athletics. You know, they didn't really get specific, but I'm guessing if they're in the United States, it's probably a football town. You know,
No, it's definitely a football town.
I can absolutely relate to that. I mean, hey, it could be. They could be in Minnesota. It could be, you know, hockey, but you know, chances
True.
are pretty strong that it's a football town,
Mhm.
and how a lot of them just kind of, you know, did not react super well, I guess, when finding out that Chicken Inspector would play video games for fun, and kind of wanted us to talk a little bit about that. And I think that ties into sort of the theme of today's show of kind of then and now, and how things have really kind of changed a lot over the years.
Mhm.
I mean, personally speaking, I guess I'll kick it off because I've had a little while to think on this.
Mhm.
You know, I grew up playing video games in gosh, like it's been my entire life, truly.
Mhm.
My daycare that my parents would drop us off at. It was a little mom and pop daycare, but they
Mhm.
actually their son was a technician who would work on arcade cabinets
Oh, wow.
for a movie theater that was local. And when
Mhm.
the movie theater no longer had things or no longer needed them, uh, they would just get rid of them, and or he would store them at this daycare and they would be on
Mhm.
free play. So
What?
yeah, so like I legit went to a daycare when I was like starting around the year like 4 or 5 years old, and I
Mhm.
would just go play in the arcade. They had three arcade cabinets that I recall:
Huh.
Circus Charlie, which sucked; Pac-Man, which was okay; and Mr. Do, which
Mr. Do.
it took me so long to figure out what that game was called, because I have crazy amounts of nostalgia for this game. It was my
Mhm.
favorite at the time, of all of them. But I used to play the heck out of Mr. Do, in
Mhm.
addition to like playing other things. But like you'd always hear the arcade cabinets going and stuff. So I grew up like practically in an arcade half of my childhood. And on sick days,
Wow.
it was like, all right, well, if you're sick, well, we can't have you around all the other kids. So you go up to this room that was kind of like where you would put the sick kid, and they'd have a couch and a little blanket and access to the Nintendo Entertainment System and a few games. So I played sick a lot, trying to get into that coveted Nintendo room.
Mhm.
Back
The
before I ever
covenant.
back before I had a Nintendo Entertainment System.
Mhm.
So eventually, though, my parents got me a Nintendo Entertainment System when I was, I don't even want to try to guess how old I was, maybe 6 or 7. Um, so I've been gaming my entire, as far back as I have memories to go, I
Mhm.
have like gaming associated with me, and like everybody did it. My parents were like they talked about how they would like have dreams of playing Tetris back in the day. Like like
Okay.
they were really into video games. They
Mhm.
never played the kind of games that I eventually got into. They never played much Zelda, but my parents we would rent like Little Nemo Dream Master and stuff. Like, and my
Mhm.
dad actually beat the train level before we did. We had Battle Toads, you know, and we never got past the Turbo Tunnel, but like we would play a lot of really fun games together. But so I guess all of that is to say, there was never, when I was growing up, and
Mhm.
I was born in '86, there was never in my small town of Manhattan, Kansas, really much of a stigma of
Mhm.
related to video games. So like to hear Chicken Inspector talk about their time, kind of like it's almost like a coming out story, right? Where they're like, people found out I play video games, and I was, you know, it's just outcast because of it. Like that's so
Yeah.
sad to hear. Um, and things have, I mean, like I guess I did eventually find a stigma when I got into JRPGs. that's
Right?
that's when people started giving me weird looks, and that's when I started finding out that it was, oh, that's the nerdy stuff, right? But
The nerds among the nerds.
yep.
If playing game wasn't nerdy enough for you, you're playing the even nerdier ones.
uh,
Oh boy.
Yeah, and you know, even in like middle school, I remember having
Mhm.
conversations with my friends who were like, they were big into first person shooters,
Mm-hmm.
around middle school, Halo just come out, or
Mm-hmm.
maybe it was early high school when Halo just came out. But I remember them playing like Siphon Filter 2 and stuff,
Oh
and
yeah, I remember that.
just Perfect Dark, and they were all into first person shooters, and I sucked.
GoldenEye.
I sucked at first person shooters. I still do, but I did then too.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I remember having discussions with them about like how I just liked RPGs. And one of my friends, it was actually a friend of a friend, would talk about how Japanese RPGs are dumb because there's no difficulty. You just grind more, and then all of a sudden your problems go away. And it's like, I mean, you're not wrong, but you are a jerk.
Tell them to play East, like the old ones.
Oh, yeah?
And then come back and talk again.
Or like Final Fantasy VIII, that
Yeah.
one also did not do super well with grinding, right?
East is like, oh, you're max level. There's no more level for you to go up. Like there's no more grinding. Like that's it. And it's still hard.
Yep.
Yeah.
So like that was, I guess, when I really encountered any kind of pushback on my hobby back in the day. How about you, Baku? What's your story?
Growing up in Hong Kong, at least, playing games is kind of normal. That's just what kids do. In fact, my dad also played video games. He actually played a lot of Tactics Ogre.
Oh yeah.
He's really liked Tactics Ogre. He really liked Fire Emblem. He really liked tactical RPG. He felt like he's kind of playing chess, but just like more advanced.
Yeah.
In a way, like technology wise, not that chess is not hard. Like
Sure,
we
sure.
meant like technology wise. He's like, oh, this is like the future. This is sort of like the future of chess. Like
I could
and
totally
in some
see that.
sense, in some sense, he's right, and I think it's pretty cool that that's how he saw it. And so he played a lot of it, and naturally, my older brother, also played a lot of games, and that kind of led down to me playing a lot of games. Even my sister played some games, although like girls were not encouraged to play games.
Yeah.
But society-wise, not within my family. My
Sure.
family didn't care. Yeah, but even she played some games, just being in the household. So there's nothing really like off-putting about it. That's just what everyone does. But then I moved to the States,
Yeah.
and things kind of changed a little bit. There's this whole language barrier. Kids didn't really understand what I'm playing because I'm playing in Japanese. They're playing like like I don't know, like Daffy Duck or some like platform game or something, and I'm playing Fire Emblem in full Japanese, and they're just like, "What is this?" Like, it looks pretty cool, but I have no idea what this thing is. So, kids didn't really get it. But I think we had like a balance of like, going out to play and playing some like, what I did find out is that I can play with these kids with these like multiplayer games that don't require you to understand any part of the language. Like those like multiplayer beat 'em ups.
Oh yeah.
There are a couple from
Double
Japan
Dragon,
that were stuff like that. Yeah.
Ninja Turtles.
Yeah, stuff like that.
Yeah.
They didn't need to understand the language. They can just play. And so we had some nice little bonding times there with these new friends.
So gaming can transcend language barriers, is what you're saying.
Absolutely. You just need to find ones that don't require you to understand the language. But like you, I think I start getting some pushback around like later on in life, like middle school, high schoolish times, where JRPGs is very much like stigmatized compared to some of these other games. My friends were playing like Lara Croft or something and like tweaking all the mods. You know what I'm talking about. And I'll be playing Final Fantasy VIII. And I'll just be like, oh, look, here's this pretty cinematics. And they're like, oh, yeah, that's pretty.
Yeah.
Where are the mods?
Yeah.
Where are the mods? And then no mods. No mods, boring. Why are you stuck in this thing? Why can't you run past this wall? Like that whole thing.
Right.
gradually became like, oh, it's just like anime girls and whatever.
Yeah,
And
I
by
think
then I stopped caring.
in the weird way,
Uh,
I feel like the rise of popularity of anime in the United
mhm,
States kind of
yeah.
contributed to the stigma of
Hmm.
games that looked like anime because they'd be like,
Yeah.
"Oh, you like anime girls?" You know.
Yeah. But it incidentally also got us over that stigma.
Eventually, yeah, for
Yeah,
sure.
so it's just kind of bizarre how it all worked out. I mean, I stuck with it through and through because I never like abandoned it and whatnot. But it's just strange now that uh, in 2020, basically, you'll get all this fanfare over a turn-based RPG, and people are just absolutely losing their marbles. Like, what? A Persona 3? A new Persona 3?
I
What?
know.
Mind blown. And people are just going crazy over it. That's and that's the part of me that's a little old school. It's like I can't believe that I can see a day where there are that many people who are super excited for it,
I
more or
know.
less mainstream,
I thought
you
I
know?
thought it was over for us when gosh, what was it? Columbine happened. The
Mm.
Columbine school shooting was a really big deal for anybody who didn't live through it. It was like one of the very first school shootings that like made national headlines,
Mm-hmm.
and shortly thereafter everybody was like every school banned trench coats, and people basically goths basically were persecuted for basically existing from then on,
Mm-hmm.
regardless of whether they had violent tendencies or not.
Yeah.
And all of the news stations were talking about how these guys played Doom and Final Fantasy VII and how they were violent video games. And I was like, well,
uh,
that's it. Time to pack it in, boys. We
yeah.
had a good run, but our violent tendencies were figured out by the news media, and now Final Fantasy is a gateway drug to mass murder.
It's insane.
It is
Yeah.
really wild how and now video games and anime and everything. Like, gosh, do you remember the years of Jack Thompson?
Remind me of who that is again.
Jack Thompson, the
Hmm.
lawyer who would God, eventually he was disbarred, but he was the guy who would just constantly push the agenda of video games cause violent children.
Oh, right. Mm.
Just years and years of this crap. Eventually we don't have to deal with them anymore, but I remember for the longest time it felt like we were just under attack from so many different angles
Hmm.
between our love of video games and anime, and now everybody plays video games. Nobody really thinks that video games cause violence in children. Like, we all at this point know the
Yeah.
same way that like that whole argument about rap causing violence, like, it's the
Hmm.
same stuff.
And
But
heavy metal
heavy metal
causes
before that.
violence.
Oh,
Yeah. Hmm.
Dungeons and Dragons, the whole satanic
Oh
panic.
God. Yeah.
Now
Pokemon.
now
Pokemon.
Oh my gosh, Harry Potter. my
Harry Potter.
my
Yep.
aunt I had an aunt who told me that role-playing games were the devil, and their children were not allowed to watch Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles because it was the devil as well. Like, they were full swing into the satanic panic, and
Oh,
it's
jeez.
hilarious in hindsight, but man,
Hmm.
so many good albums got burned back in the day, and
Hmm.
it makes me very sad to think about. Um,
Yeah.
and things have just changed so dramatically. I feel like a little bit of culture shock still when I think about just like now. Whenever I used to dream of having an anime channel that I could flip
Mm.
to on the tube. I was like, that was the thing. Like, man, I remember the anime network. I remember like calling
Hmm.
my cable company and be like, I want a petition to have the anime network on my television, on my cable. I remember trying that because like there was this big ad campaign for them to do that. It never
Hmm.
came to fruition for me, but now it's like, oh yeah, I have all of the anime that I will ever want from Crunchyroll and Funimation, and
No time to watch it.
no time to watch it. Yeah. Same with video games. I have
Hmm.
so many available to me to play at the it's just it is so wild to me, and people are excited about it, and there's this whole community of people who are excited about these things, and it feels really awesome to be surrounded by like-minded cool people like you all, who
I know, right?
oh man,
Yeah.
I feel spoiled, honestly. Like it's sometimes easy to feel doom and gloom about stuff and get
Hmm.
caught up in like the current state of like here's the newest drama in the video game industry. But dang, dude, it's so nice.
Isn't it how nice that money changes everything?
Oh, as soon as there's money and something
Oh
suddenly
yeah.
becomes popular.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
the game industry is now larger than Hollywood, so naturally, lobbying can happen. And now there's money in it for them. All of a sudden, it's like, oh, it's not so bad. Well, just man, you
Yeah.
know, uh, yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy. But here we are. I mean, you'll still get a couple of like, senator who will come out and say, "Oh, video games is violence," like because
I, yeah.
yeah, they can't get with the time. Like they're still sticking to like the same talking point.
They haven't updated their material.
They have not. They have not. I always feel like there is truly a lot more in common between a comedian and a legislator, which is unfortunate. But yeah, like they're just repeating their best hits,
Yeah. It worked for me in the 60s. It worked for me
Yeah.
in the 80s. So I'll continue to beat this
I'll be
table.
here all week, guys.
Oh, no.
Yeah. Yeah, but it's incredible that we've gone from such a place to now. Kind of tying back to that whole like talk about like, oh, what's a JRPG? Should it still be a thing? We kind of talked about how it used to be, how it was sort of looked down upon, and then here we are. But just games in general, though, I think Derek and I are pretty fortunate in the sense that like we're surrounded by people who encourage us that as a hobby, uh, and never seen too much pushback. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, like worst. Like I remember when I came out to my family as having an affinity for anime. My dad was like, "What? You mean that those Japanese cartoons with the big eyes?" And that was it. Like, oh,
Man.
okay, yeah, okay. Well, moving along.
Yep.
Yeah.
Thank you so much again, Chicken Inspector, for that great question. I hope things are much better for you now in your state of life and people are not poking at you for playing games because, boy, where have they been?
I know.
Right.
Right.
Like, get with the time already. Like,
I mean, and the thing is, like, I also live in basically a college football town, like Manhattan, Kansas, home of the Wildcats. If you care about
Oh.
that sort of thing, it's. I mean, I never. It was weird. I had friends who loved football. I just never got into it. They couldn't suck me into it. My best friend's dad once tried to teach me how to play football. He said, "Go that way and turn around and catch the football. It's called a button hook." And I'm like, "What the heck is that?" Okay, I'll try that. And I turned around and I tried to catch the football and it didn't work because I wasn't very good. And that was all I remember of ever being taught about football. Anyways,
I am near the school that I'm near TC Williams. So if you know what that is,
No.
the movie Remember the Titans.
Okay.
It's about
Yeah,
it's
the Disney
about
movie. I saw
school.
that.
Yeah, it's about that school. So
Oh.
yeah, just want to throw that out there, just so we're not losing.
Neat.
Neat. Anyways, sport balls.
All right. Moving along. I see our numbers dropping fast.
Oh no.
Let's get back to talking about the RPGs. And that's kind of the theme of today's show is then and now. So in tying into that, I wanted to kind of bring up some discussion topics that really just allowed Baku and I to kind of just shoot the breeze about how things have also changed. As far as just RPGs in general from the last for as long as we want to, really. Like
Yeah.
honestly, I feel like I could talk about this stuff forever. But to just kind of kick things off, let's talk about the art the Art of JRPGs.
Ooh,
And
Art of JRPGs.
and
Okay.
that could be anything from like the graphical fidelity, the switch
Mm-hmm.
from pixels to
Mm-hmm.
polygons, or
Mm-hmm.
it could just be like how just the art of has kind of changed in
Mm-hmm.
all kinds of mediums. Like, gosh, I remember it used to be that Final Fantasy games would all have this really interesting art by, oh, what was the guy's name? He did,
Amano.
yes, Amano, who
Mm-hmm.
did like the watercolor and uh, and
Mm-hmm.
and now you would never see that kind of artwork being used in promotional material, at least.
Mm-hmm.
It's almost all like in-engine renders or different renders or obviously like really nicely detailed paintings, like digital
Mm-hmm.
painting, right? But
Key arts.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
like really
Mm-hmm.
highly polished, little like very little in the way of like traditional media, though, right?
Mm-hmm.
And by
Yeah.
media, I'm talking about like the style of paint that is, guys. Not
Mm-hmm.
not like Fox News traditional media, but like media in the sense of like paint, oil paint, water,
Mm-hmm.
pastels.
Oil on canvas or something.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Mm-hmm.
But that's one of the things that like first jumps out at me when I think about like the way that just art in general has changed, and almost the whole anime aesthetic. I feel like we've leaned into that a lot more
Mm-hmm.
over time. I mean, it's always kind of been pretty prevalent. What do you think?
Mm-hmm. Ooh, yeah. I think the anime art style has definitely been used a lot more, and maybe for a good reason in just establishing an identity.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and it's an identity that it goes hand in hand with the whole JRPG talk of like, oh, what even is a JRPG,
Yeah.
etc. Part of it is the aesthetics, right? Like
Oh
you
yeah.
don't, yeah, you look at Dark Souls and immediately you're like, that's not JRPG, right? That's what a lot of people say, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, I won't argue with you on what that would be. Or, I mean,
Yeah.
what a JRPG really means, but I certainly understand the sentiment, right? You
Yeah. It's
look
clearly
at,
not a JRPG. The girls are
yeah,
too
clearly
ugly.
not. They look too realistic. Their eyes a little small there. Uh, or it's not like 2D enough for them or something, right?
Yeah.
But you see the aesthetics and you're like, oh yeah, that's totally and even for non-Japanese developer who wants to create JRPG, a lot of them end up using art style that's at least reminiscent of anime drawing.
Mm-hmm.
So why is that, right? It's become part of the identity. It doesn't have to be,
Sure.
right? There are certainly JRPGs that don't have anime looking characters, even relatively new ones like what is it Valkyrie Profile doesn't have anime
Mm.
looking art at all. In fact, it's actually really well drawn art. Like I really love the art style in the Valkyrie Profile. Same with the Star Ocean, the new remake that they're doing right now. Like that art style, again, definitely not something I would just say, oh yeah, that's totally just like anime.
Mm-hmm.
You can say like the character design is still there, but
Yeah.
the art style, I don't think it's very anime.
I think
Compared
that
to something like Ranma or something.
yeah. I think that a
Yeah.
lot of it has to do with its or like the roots of the genre, or at least the
Hmm.
roots of when the genre got really big in Japan was
Hmm.
with the advent of, well, Dragon Quest, which obviously used a really popular mangaka at the time,
Yeah.
Akira Toriyama,
Hmm.
to do a lot of the designs of the characters and the art, and
Hmm.
was used heavily in marketing and had
Hmm.
ties in with Shonen Jump. So
Hmm.
JRPGs and anime aesthetic have gone on hand in hand for so long. And I think that that's one of those things that kind of started establishing that.
Hmm.
But then moving on into like the 16-bit era, I feel like at that point you could really make out more of like the details of characters who were done in more of like an anime aesthetic
Hmm.
than like typical, like comparing the, gosh, like the sprite work of Indiana Jones from like one of the Sierra games. Like you can see that that's Indiana Jones, but like side by side with like Chrono from Chrono Trigger, like you can get it, just feels like it lends itself more cleanly to those details and those proportions, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Like it
Yeah.
was is almost like a match made in heaven for pixel art, and because it simplifies things in a lot of ways and makes it turns people in a lot of ways into icons
Hmm.
of people, and what I mean by that is it simplifies a lot of the features while keeping
Hmm.
them relatively detailed. It's like this middle ground where it's easier to achieve this look than photorealism, right?
Well, we've seen Final Fantasy VIII. We know what happens when you try initially. Anyways, technology's got better over time, but old school Final Fantasy VIII, you can't make out their face at all. It's just like, what's going on here? Like the in-game models are like, oh God, what happened to you? Movies, they look great, but man,
Yeah, yeah.
there's some work to do.
But I feel like
And
that
yeah.
still looks a lot better than other, like, I mean, Lara Croft didn't look that much better. You know, let's be real.
Not unless you mod it.
I mean, on the PlayStation 1, like on
On the
PC,
PlayStation 1.
I was gonna say on PC, all bets are off because you've got much higher resolution monitors and you're only limited by your graphics card, right? But
Yeah. Yeah, FF8 was pretty hideous. In looking back, it was amazing when
oh,
it
but
came out,
nine
but
was so
it didn't.
gorgeous though. Nine,
Nine is great, but nine went back to see that's the thing though. Nine went back to a more like chibi kind of art style, if
mm-hmm.
you remember. Sorry,
Yeah.
so yeah, but then of course as technology improved, like you start going over to like Final Fantasy 12, it looks a lot better, and then 13 looks even better still, and then by now 16 is like whoa, okay,
Yeah.
like there's that progression for you in the 3D side of things. I've always felt like we had this great divide between the 2D and the 3D.
I was gonna ask. Well, I was
Yeah.
gonna ask when do you feel like we hit that sweet spot for, or like between the 2D and 3D? What's your favorite?
My sweet spot,
Yeah,
like right now.
sure. Oh,
I
okay.
mean,
Like just
yeah,
like high
like
high fidelity all the way, full tilt.
well, I mean, 2D has gotten its own line of evolution too, if you really think about it.
Mm-hmm.
Like between looking at I don't know, the old school Final Fantasy 6 to Pixel Remaster Final Fantasy 6 to you made the PSP version of Final Fantasy 4. Like there's definitely like an evolution. Like they
Yeah.
didn't just like stay still. Octopath Traveler is a nice little medium between the two. But with improvement in the 2D art category, even then, so it's not as if 2D has just kind of like stopped
Yeah,
improving.
you're right because
Um,
gosh, there was the indie pretty recently, Sea of Stars.
Oh my
That
God, yeah,
the pixel art in that is some of the best that I've seen. And like
absolutely.
prior to that, I felt like it kind of peaked with Breath of Fire 4.
Hmm.
And I still think Breath of Fire 4 is really peak pixel art JRPG material. Um, but man, Sea of Stars just looks so great. And I think it's because they have
Yes.
more pixels to work with that kind of gives them a bit of an edge over other classic titles.
Hmm.
But yeah, I gotta say I got a sweet spot for those 2D pixel art, man. I mean, at a certain point, it's it's the restrictions that breed creativity. And
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. That's sort of the beauty with 2D arts. It's exactly what you're saying, which is how can they make this look better with the limited amount like bits that they have to work with.
Mhm.
No longer is that the case, right?
Yeah,
And so you know, um, I've always struggled between those two like extremes for when it comes to like game developers. Like should we impose more limits on them so that they can help with their creativity, or should we
yeah, that's what
like
the Switch is for.
not restrict them. Oh my god, Xenoblade 3, creative zen of the creativity. Uh, yeah, no, like 3D characters now are just like it's just more and more about like realism. Like, can we make it look like how can we defeat like the uncanny valley?
Yeah.
2D is more like, can we do something different that we haven't done before?
Yeah. How do you
They
push the
have
envelope to make it pixel art but still look even better?
yeah.
Like,
So
how do you
I respect it.
refine this even further than where it is? It's such an interesting subject.
Yeah, absolutely. So what are some games that you thought were pretty good in representing these?
Oh, well, I mean, like I said, Breath of Fire 4 is peak pixel art
Mhm.
for JRPGs. I just I feel like it's marred only somewhat by the boss fights that include these like low poly weird looking things.
Mhm.
The boss fights kind of ruin some of that. Otherwise, it would definitely be top tier. I mean, it
Mm.
still is, but it would be the top of the tier. It'd be triple S if only not for those certain boss fights that just kind of kill it. Um,
Yeah.
but I mean, in terms of like 3D visuals, man, even games like most recently, what was the one that I reviewed that I finished? Loop 8. I
Mhm.
mean, it's probably not the top of the top tier, but I feel like the visuals captured that anime aesthetic really, really well.
Oh,
Uh,
interesting.
and also like capturing like the low frames in combat to kind of like, if you're familiar with how even an animation or anime, you're even if you are watching a film at 24 frames per second, like they're not animating a new frame every 24 frames. Like they're
Mhm.
reusing like two or three times for certain animation, and that's what they did for Loop 8. Is so you're actually getting like between 12 and 9 FPS in the animation in the character animations,
Mhm.
while the rest of the game is still running at like a smooth 60, which is
Oh, that's interesting.
really neat. Yeah.
Mhm.
I mean, say what you will about other aspects of the game, like its balance is pretty, like if you're, I mean, and by balance I mean like the balance of combat
Mhm.
to storytelling is
Mhm.
really slanted toward the storytelling. And if you're
Mhm.
good with like, playing 5 minutes of combat for an hour of story, then you're good. That's about the balance.
Hmm.
But yeah, visually, I think they did really nicely. It's a good
Man, now
looking game,
now I need to start that game now.
and you could knock it out in a few hours. I mean, in a long weekend. I think it was like 12 hours, 15 hours to play through a single
Really?
run. But it's also one of those games that I suspect has several endings. Different,
Okay.
many different routes through the game, if you will. A game that you might say has a lot of replay value.
Oh, new game plus.
In fact, there is a new game plus, and the whole game is about looping, so it kind of ties into the theme too, which
Mm.
is kind of neat, I think.
I do appreciate it when the game mechanics is tied to the story.
Yeah,
Yeah. Uh, you know, I think that when it comes to the whole 2D thing, like I used to think that a lot of these games the Super Nintendo looks amazing, right? It might have to
Super
do with the
Mario
fact that
RPG.
well, no, it might have to do with the fact that it was played on like a CRT, right? But then
Oh
I go
yeah,
back and look at it,
yeah.
and I'm like, was it always this blurry?
No, a lot of it was fixed on the CRT. Like if you're playing older, if you don't have a scaler, you definitely need, if you're playing an old school game, either emulate it or play it with a scaler, because
Yeah.
your HD TV is going to ruin it. It is
Yeah,
going to
probably.
destroy it. Check out
Probably.
check out. There's a YouTube channel. A couple cool dudes from My Life in Gaming have a
Mhm.
variety of videos talking about how to play your older console games on modern hardware, modern TVs and make them actually look good, because they will massacre those older games. I've seen some stuff, man.
I feel like the PSP actually made a lot of these older games look a lot better. Yeah, and really started making it HD in the aspect ratio, anyways. And starting from that point, I think they really went back and say, okay, how can we sort of bring these 2D arts to like the modern times, right?
Yeah.
So the aesthetics is always there, right? The aesthetics hasn't changed. It still looks great. It's just a matter of like, can we uh, bring about this aesthetics with our modern technology? Like, what do we need to do to conserve the look while making it feel new? And that's still the challenge, right? For a lot of these game developers wanted to bring their IPs to like the modern day. You know, we looked at the Pixel remaster. I think that's a really good.
It's a good step.
It's a good step. I felt that they had a better style in the PSP games, like what is it, specifically for Final Fantasy IV. It just looks amazing.
I was gonna say PSP games
yeah.
of Final Fantasy 1 and 2 were okay, but
No, just in terms of like the character sprites.
Okay.
Like I was just like, you had like a pretty good thing, but then they just opted not to use it at all.
Yeah.
And then you can see how poorly they did with the phone ports, where it's just all kinds of issues there.
Yeah.
So they can do it well, or they can just like fail. And I think Pixel Remaster is fine. It's about like as baseline as you can get, and maybe that's all we really need. So let's just not, you know, as long as you don't do worse than this, somehow I feel like that's already a win.
Yeah.
Maybe my expectation for Square Enix has dropped a lot over times.
Well, it's
Yeah.
because it feels like Square Enix has changed a lot over the years as well, and they kind of have a bit of a split personality. Like, it feels like, you know, who is Square Enix at this point anymore? Like,
That's a
are
good
they the ones who
question.
put out? Are they the ones who put out Octopath Traveler? Yes. Are they the ones who put out Forspoken? Yes. Are they the ones who put out what was the the games as a service that failed so hard?
Oh,
Babylon's Fall.
Babylon's
Oh my
Fall.
gosh.
Yeah.
Like they have such they did Dragon Quest 11, nailed it, you know?
Yeah.
Like like Square Enix is a company that is just all over the place as far as like what will they put out, what will succeed, what won't. And man, I remember back in the day, if you saw the Square logo on a on a Super Nintendo box at the rental shop, that's
Yeah.
when I knew that I had to rent it. Like, it's like, oh, this has the Square logo, time to get it. It was
Kind of like the seal of approval, right?
it was better than the seal of approval. Like, legit, it was how I found so many good games back in the day, because it was because, you know, I didn't know who publishers were, but I happened to notice eventually that every time I got one of those games with the Squaresoft logo on it, I had a really good time.
Right.
That's how
Oh man.
that's how you knew, is because it was on the box. You know, Secret of Mana. You know, Chrono Trigger, Final
Terranigma.
Fantasy. Oh no, that one was
Oh no,
Enix.
Enix. Yes.
Yep, that was
Sorry,
Enix.
Enix was the other one.
That was the other one.
Enix was the other one.
They
Yes.
were, you know, it's like Square and Enix, man, incredible companies apart from each other, but when they got married, they just destroyed each other.
It's a bizarre. It's a bizarre affair for sure.
Yep.
So
Oil
you
and
know,
water should not mix.
I gotta ask you though, like, do you prefer the 2D or the 3D like aesthetics? Because I for the longest time, and maybe still, I still preferred mostly 2D aesthetics over 3D.
2D feels like comfort food to me, man.
Boy, I love those comfort food.
I know. It's such a good analogy though. It
Yeah.
feels like home, but that's because that's what I grew up playing.
Mhm.
3D still feels cool, but in a lot of ways, they have to try so much harder for me to establish a connection.
Mhm.
Because I feel like that this is a real phenomenon. It is easier for you to project your own feelings and emotions into like a simple portrayal of a character
Mhm.
uh, than it is into like a photorealistic painting of a very specific person, right? Like it is weird, but there is this like um it doesn't even have to do with the uncanny valley, but it's something that I learned when I was going into art
Mhm.
for video game art and design years and years ago. Um, and there was this really interesting book series
Mhm.
from oh, it was the Understanding Comics and Making Comics. It was a couple of books from oh, I can't remember his name off the top of my head anymore. Incredible books, though. Highly
Mhm.
recommended. But one of
Mhm.
them was McLeod, I think was the last name.
Okay.
And he talked
If you
about,
find it, you should share that with people.
oh yeah, I have the books.
Yeah.
They're on my shelf somewhere.
Mhm.
But yeah, it's really interesting how it's just easier to connect to like a cartoon character than it is to a person. And I think it's because there's enough of blank spaces in the details for us to put in our own, kind of like
Oh.
how a scary monster that you never see is way scarier than like the bodysuit, on in a movie. It's like, yeah,
Right.
like maybe they shouldn't have shown it at the end of it. Like maybe he was scarier as the clown than the spider, but
Mhm.
yeah, I think it's kind of in the same realm of psychology or something.
Mhm.
I don't know, but it's just easier for us, and I think that that's part of why I like pixel art more. I don't know. I can
Hmm.
just kind of fill in the details with as much of my own mind creation as I want.
No, that you know what? That's actually a pretty good point. And in fact, going back to what you were just saying about like Amano's art versus like nowadays, I think that's the thing is before they didn't have the technology to create something very photorealistic, right? So they can use these more artistic, kind of drawing to convey certain image in your head about these characters, and it's a lot easier to do. But of course, as technology improves over time, now is like in-game render and what have you that ends up taking like the front stage, right? Because that's what you're actually going to get, and it looks great. We don't really need you to use your imagination to fill the gaps anymore. We have the technology that fills the gap. Here you go. Like
Yeah,
this is what it
and
actually
you
looks like.
and you better
Yeah.
hope that they filled it in with something that you like.
Yeah, right. And maybe that's part of why making these remixes is so hard. Even just getting the art correct is
Yeah,
already hard. This
getting
is
it
not how I imagined it, right? Like
exactly.
something feels off. Yeah.
Exactly. So much that.
Hmm.
And honestly, guys, we have three other subjects besides the evolution of art in RPGs to talk about, but
Uh,
but I think we'll probably need to save those for another episode. What do you think?
yeah, probably.
That's the problem, or it's the blessing and the curse of having discussion topics for this podcast. Is like we could go on for like 4 hours, but then I need sleep. Um, so
I'm
let's
going to the office tomorrow.
Oh, you poor soul.
I know, I know, I know.
Well, let's go ahead and switch to talking about some of the super chats that we've been receiving here because we've
Yes.
been meaning to like talk to the chat when we're getting into these conversations, but I get so distracted by talking to Baku. I'm sorry.
I'm sorry.
Baku,
I,
quit
I
being so engaging.
I tend to do that to people.
So this first super chat comes from Fluppy Dogs who says, I crawled from the depths of BDO for the show. I
No.
consider this entertainment. Hold on. I gotta expand that window. I consider the entertainment version of touching grass. Thank you both for saving me. What is BDO? Do you know what?
BDO?
Yeah. Uh, Bachman Durnover Override. Uh, no, that's. Let's see. BD. Um, Black Desert Online, someone says. Okay.
Black Desert Online.
Oh, yeah. Is that the
What?
That's like is that an MMO? I think it
Oh,
is.
okay.
Yeah, I think it's an MMO.
Okay.
Oh, cool. Yeah,
Huh.
Yep. Okay. Well, welcome back to the world of other online social interaction. They also
Right.
said biggest gaming regret as a question here. Oh gosh.
Hmm.
Examples: a collector's edition that you passed up on, or a collector's edition that you bought, a game that you had a chance to buy and didn't, or something that you sold. Oh,
That's so many.
so something regarding like collecting, I guess. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I
That's so many regrets.
I have a regret.
Mm-hmm.
And it's about a quadrilogy of games that I I shouldn't have bought, but I did. I bought
Mm-hmm.
them. I got a good deal on them. I bought them for $200. It's the original Dot Hack games on PlayStation 2. Uh,
Okay.
but and that's fine. I just didn't end up enjoying them really after my time with the first game. But
Oh
in order to get a
no.
good deal, I wanted to buy all four as a set. But I played through them all and I reviewed them
Mm-hmm.
all. And the conclusion I came to is, you know, maybe just try the first one and see if you like it first before you buy the rest. Because the first one's like a $10 game, and
Mm-hmm.
the final one's like a $100 game. But I'm sure that I came out ahead of it in the long run. I don't know how much they
Mm-hmm.
are right now, but I'm guessing it's probably more than 400 or more than 200.
Ooh. Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
Probably. Just the collectors right there.
Yeah. But basically,
Yeah.
I honestly I should have eased into buying some of those more expensive games than I did.
Mm.
But what about
No, that
you? What's your regret?
oh boy. Regrets on buying something.
Or selling something? Yeah,
Okay, well, there's so many. I'm
I know.
staring at one right now. I regret picking up the Trails into Reverie limited edition. I am not gonna touch it forever. I probably just end up selling it as is. I haven't opened it yet.
I have a
And
weird story about my collector's edition.
oh yeah,
Yeah, I got it. I got it.
okay.
I bought one. I
Hmm.
pre-ordered one a long while ago from NISA's store,
Okay.
and then they switched stores and they asked
Hmm.
me to like confirm the details,
And you
and
didn't do it.
I did,
Okay.
and then they took my payment again, which was weird, I think.
They charge you twice.
But then it was refunded, and then I got a cancellation notice for the second one.
What
after
the heck?
my first one arrived. So I don't know what happened. I think that during this transition that they had some weird cross communication thing. Anyways,
Huh.
I almost ended up with two, I think, but they caught it, and now I have one.
Time to give one away.
No, I don't have two. I almost had to. And if I had two, I'd have one to keep and one to open.
Yes. I also sold a limited edition Zelda themed 3DS that I didn't think was going to be worth much.
Oh,
I was wrong.
Was it the purple one, like the
No,
Majora's Mask one?
the black and gold one.
Oh,
Yeah.
that 3DS?
Yes, that 3DS.
I have that. I have that.
It's worth more now than before. That's for sure. Yeah.
Oh, I need to
I
look
sold
into
it
that.
for like nothing, and then
Oh,
not happy about that at all.
I'm glad I
Yeah.
have mine. I saved it the other day from
Mhm.
certain death because the battery was expanding.
Oh, really? Wow.
Yeah. Yep.
Um.
Check your batteries, guys, and make sure, because I actually saved my PSP as well. Luckily, the
Mhm.
PSP just has a compartment that it pops out of, but you actually have to, with the 3DS, you actually have to unscrew it and then take the
Yes.
battery out. It would have caused some permanent damage had I not.
Jeez. Yeah. Well, I think you caught it. That's very lucky of you.
Yeah.
Uh,
Coming.
I regret not buying Octopath Traveler limited edition.
Oh.
Or or what is it called? Nier Automata. These games that limited turn out to be like extremely hard to get now.
Yeah,
Yeah. So it's like buying stocks, man.
I
Like
know.
buying these limited editions, like buying
You
stocks.
never know which ones are going to go to the moon, so you just buy them all.
Yes, and
I know. All right. Well, Massive Rican says, loving the new vids lately on the channel. Hopefully the heat won't be necessary to keep our going to keep on going.
yes.
Yeah, well, let's see if we can beat the heat. Yeah, hopefully I can just. Luckily, all my lights are LEDs and stuff. So while I do have an extra several lights in here that keep it a little above ambient, as far as temperature goes, they're not as bad as they could be. If they were like traditional studio lights, it would be like 110 degrees in here. I remember when I first got professional studio lights for my my studio when I was living in Seattle. They were CFL bulbs, but even
Oh,
then they were hot, and they were bright. And I remember there was no air conditioning in Seattle, uh, and trying to do anything in the summer, I was just hot all the time, and I would just be sweating, and I'd have to like go like freshen up, use a hair dryer to like dry off a little bit between takes. It was bad.
that sounds that's a miserable existence.
Oh yeah,
I'm so sorry to hear.
my heart goes out to the Pacific Northwest right now, who are all dealing with some crazy heat with no AC. It is brutal.
Oh, Europe too.
Oh gosh, yeah.
They,
There's a lot
they're,
of
yeah,
because I think a lot of Europe doesn't have it either because they're not used to getting these temperatures. But
that's right.
that's rough.
Yeah.
Next up, Fluppy Dog says, I think I'd prefer a ton of optional side content like bosses, dungeon stories, collectibles, etc., over having branching paths requiring multiple playthroughs.
Hmm.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, it's still what's fun for you though. At the end of the day, you see,
yeah.
like those are the things that's fun for you, right? Those compels you to play it again,
As long as
right?
they're not
Yeah.
locked behind like a previous perfect playthrough or something.
Oh, jeez.
Like if you
Another
can't,
missable thing or
yeah,
something.
yeah, like the golden ending of Persona 4 Golden, where you have to do everything just right in order to get the final dungeon.
I used the guide.
Yep.
I wasn't messing. I'm like, I told Mr. Val, I was like, look, if I can't get through to the golden ending for some reason, because something with the guide or whatever, I'm not playing this again.
Yeah, I know.
We're gonna get that ending. We're moving on. Like, that's it.
Yep. That was one of the benefits of playing through the Trails series with an online audience who was like really into Trails, is having them kind of like be my guide through the game in addition. Like, all right, what am I doing? Who do I gotta kill? Just point me at him, and I'll eventually get the good end. It's I'll stumble my way through and have everybody else carry me.
What do I need to know about Trails from Zero? Just tell me now, guys. Just tell me now.
It's fantastic, and you will love it.
No, I mean like things that I'm gonna miss out. Tell me all the things that we're gonna miss.
Oh god.
Give me an entire list of missable things. That's what I want from now on. Just an entire list of missable things, and just make sure to like checklist them as I go through.
Fluppy Dogs next asks, mint or OG Oreos? I'm guessing flavor wise.
Okay.
Personally, OG.
I've never tried mint.
Yeah,
I don't
me
think I
neither.
want to.
I mean, I'm into Thin Mints. Like the Girl Scout cookies. Those are
Mhm.
like I'm into some chocolate mint. But there's nothing more pure than just like a basic Oreo. I don't even like
Mhm.
the double stuff. I like the single stuff Oreos better
Hmm.
because I like the cookie more than the filling.
Oh, okay. Do you
Yep,
dunk it in milk?
I do. Yep.
Oh, okay. Well, you ate it. You ate it the right way. Okay,
Yeah,
good.
of course, of course.
You did it the right way.
How I mean,
Yeah.
they're too dry to eat without the milk.
I feel like I'd rather just eat like an after eight. Like I would just have the after 8, thank you, and just take the chocolate and not deal with it. Like if I wanted a cookie, I just get a cookie. This like merge of chocolate mint and a cookie. I don't know if I really care for that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Also, what is your plan for how we can save more of our flock by bringing them up to the mint side of the force? Asking. Speaking of, t-shirts are great
Oh,
in mint as well.
yes.
You're welcome. They
It's a
are.
great shirt.
They are. I think I am actually wearing the mint green Hype Responsibly shirt right now. However, because of the lighting, I think it kind of looks like the ice blue, but yeah, it's the mint green, and it's really nice. I like it a lot.
Man, it's a really comfortable shirt. Guys
Yep.
need to pick one up today.
And in this case, the mint green is the OG. So
Oh, is it?
yeah, yep. And the
Oh.
ice blue came later.
Oh,
It's one of the reprint options. But everybody who got the limited edition with the limited edition seal on the back, that's the mint green.
I have one of those.
Yeah.
I'm gonna sell it for lots of money one day. Lots and lots of money.
Or you could just wear it and have an experience worth more than what you'll sell it for later.
I'll do both. Man.
okay.
I got it. You got it.
Oh, it's worth more after you wear it. You'll be like,
It's totally worth more after you wear it.
that's what I learned about. Yeah. Gamer Boy shirts. Slightly
Yes,
used.
that's exactly it.
Kansad says, "Hey guys, I beat Final Fantasy 16 and found it to be incredible. Loved
Congratulations.
the Devil May Cry-esque gameplay. I
Mhm.
only hope that the next Final Fantasy hard mode is available from the start." Is it not available from the start?
It's so bizarre that they would do that, right?
That feels like one of those things that should be available from the start, no matter what.
Mhm.
Because, like, do they really expect people to play? Like, I mean, I understand that, sure, they might feel like everybody's going to replay their game over and over. I mean, like in an ideal world, and that probably holds true for a lot of Final Fantasy fans,
Mhm.
you know, in their past games.
Mhm.
But if you just like, I don't know, man, it feels weird to have to like restart the game or to finish it to get to hard mode. Like if it's just
Yeah.
easy, it's going to be boring. Like you don't want players to be bored. I don't know.
Not a lot of that makes sense. Sometimes it's just conventional thinkings that we've just gotten used to it. We had no reason to challenge it, which is unfortunate because I feel like they should challenge these conventions and say whether or not they actually still make sense. Why did they even make sense to begin with? Like
Yeah.
the whole New Game Plus thing. Why do you even have New Game Plus?
Right.
You know, now it's just default. Well, of course you do. It's like, well, yeah, but what was the point of doing this to begin with? Why do we have this? And does it still serve that purpose today? If you don't constantly ask these questions and you just accept these things as given, then you don't grow, right? Even in anything, in any endeavor, we're not even just talking about video games, just in anything in general. Like you got to ask yourself, why do you still do this the way that you do? It might have made sense in the last like 5 years. Maybe it doesn't make sense for the next 5, right?
Like
That's a challenge. Yeah.
imagine if like Dark Souls, you know, made you play through it first and then it unlocked the hard mode. Like what?
Yeah, I can't think of any time that should ever make sense. No, in no game should that make sense. Like I should just be able to choose my difficulty if it's there at any point, anytime.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, if anything, I almost feel like an easy mode should be locked off until you die several times. What do you think of that?
Well, okay. I'd say no to that only for people who are disabled and
Okay.
probably need
Yeah, as an
to-
accessibility thing.
Yeah, I don't want to make them feel bad to get,
Okay,
that's
that's true.
Yeah. So, but hard mode, it's like that's a challenge. If I feel like I should be challenged, then just let me have that challenge. East, I think, does that with like the nightmare mode locked away. Why? Why? Just
Yeah.
open it. Maybe I just want to torture myself from the get-go. Like, I bought the game. Let me play it how I want to. It's in the mode. It's there. You already programmed this.
The real torture was the initial gameplay we had along the way.
To get to the nightmare mode.
Exactly.
It's so easy. That's torture.
Finally here, we got another one here. We got a couple more. Flippy Dog says, I can't get enough of pixel art style. Whether it's old school pixel sprites or the new HD 2D style, I think it's timeless and I want more of it. Me too, man. Me too.
I do like the 2D aesthetics.
I do love some 3D stuff though. Like, I mean, legitimate. Like, it's not for every game. I feel like a really serious game would really benefit more from like a more serious aesthetic. But sometimes you just want something casual and something fun and upbeat and unrealistic. And I think that pairs really nicely with pixel art style.
I'm gonna say this. It's gonna sound a little controversial, but I think it's gonna just cost less to make really good looking 2D than to make really good looking 3D. Like top tier to top tier, right? So, and that's why all the good looking indies are basically 2D, right? Because they can spend their resource on other things and still have like world class like 2D graphics, right?
I'm kind of waiting for more games, more indie inspired, more retro RPG inspired indies to embrace the early polygon look. I kind of want to see it. So one game that kind of has started to do that was Alterium Shift, which feels kind of like a PlayStation 1 game, where ironically the bosses are also polygons, but they're not bad like the ones in Breath of Fire 4, so I give them a pass. But ironically, it's kind of like it's a great looking game, but it's a mix of 3D and pixel art that I just really jive with.
Man, someone's telling me about the story from yesterday's stream. Was it yesterday or the day before? The day before.
Yeah.
There was this MMO that I used to play, and then there was this one kid who came on, and I think we were just like clowning around in the MMO. And this kid's like, "How dare you, make light of this? Like, this is a men's game." And I'm like, "Excuse me? Like, this game in question is called Mabinogi. It's, if you guys look that up, it's like such a nice, chill, cartoony game.
Okay.
It is not like a serious game." This kid was just like, "This is a men's game," and we all just busted out laughing. Like, I'm pretty sure you're in middle school. Like, there's no adult can call this a men's game with a straight face. Like, unless you're just trolling. But the kid's also not trolling. Like, it just made a fool of himself, and I think he just like left the server and maybe never come back. Yeah. But it's. It's something reminded me of that yesterday, the other day when we were talking about like Dark Souls games, and basically people who would never, some of these Dark Souls bro would never like want to think of this as being a JRPG, because JRPG is all associated to all the waifus and all like the giant eyes and all the jiggle physics, right? So so then the Dark Souls bros are like, "No, this is not a JRPG now. No, it can't be. This is a men's game." Like Dark Souls is a men's game. So that's where that joke came from.
That's great.
I can't forget that day. It's just it's a very bizarre day in my little gaming history. Yeah. So do we have more?
Yeah, we do. Two more, actually.
Oh, shoot.
Yeah.
Okay.
Flippy Dogs has one more that says, the more realistic a game, the less likely I can suspend the reality for flaws. A cartoony or pixely world is easier for me to accept.
Yeah, I can see that.
Yep.
I can see that. I it does remind me of I was reading this article about just like the lessons learned from Yoshi-P, which funny enough, the article is from Sports Illustrated.
Oh yeah, really?
Yeah, Sports Illustrated interviewed Yoshi-P, and I mean, they had some pretty good questions, right?
Yeah.
It's this like subsection of Sports Illustrated called like Good Luck Have
Esports.
Fun. Yeah, I don't know. They're trying to branch in, right?
Sure.
So regardless, like the interview is actually pretty solid. So if you want to take a read, but there's this question that I feel like it's been asked to death of him already, which is, what do you consider as the Final Fantasy? Yoshi-P? Yeah, because that's like the big question, right? So let's
Oh.
hear it from the man, right? What do you consider it as? And he gave the answer that he has given to multiple interviews already,
Yeah.
which is Final Fantasy is the best game we can make at the time with the given technology, and that definition depends on the team that works on it. That's it. He said Sakaguchi told him the same thing. Kitase told him the same thing. He's taking that philosophy and he's making the best game that he can do with the technologies that he has available, and to the most amount of people who can enjoy it. That's it. That's at the end of the day, that's what it is. Now, obviously, you can agree or disagree with it. That's not the point. But the point is, they are doing that with the graphical fidelity in a way that this is the best that they can produce.
It is very pretty.
Yeah, and so if you look back at Final Fantasy VI, right, like that was the best that they can do on the Super Nintendo, right, and it looked gorgeous. And so in that sense, like I feel like that is correct. Like they absolutely did make the best pixel arts they could do with the given technology and time period. Even with Final Fantasy VIII, I mean, I I'd laugh about it, but given that time period, that was the best that they could do. The opening cinematic for Final Fantasy VIII looks incredible. When I open it for a bunch of friends who knew nothing about Final Fantasy and they saw the opening cinematics, they're like, "Wow, this looks so good!" Like, whoa! And then they saw the in-game model. They're like, "What happened?" Immediately disappointed. Like, what? Like, after the opening sequence, Final Fantasy VIII opens in like a clinic, kind of, where like Squall wakes up from like this battle, right? And then just immediately they saw the face. It's like, wait, that's not what we saw in the cinematic. What happened? It's funny.
It'll be back. It'll be back, I swear.
In about 15 hours, we'll get another cinematics, okay? And you'll get it back. Yeah.
So speaking of
fun days.
Of Yoshi-P, Vanitas Sentiment 13 says when they were promoting Final Fantasy 16, Yoshi-P wanted players to enjoy the story before throwing the hard stuff at you. So that's, I guess, what they're saying in response to hiding the hard mode behind the first playthrough. I can kind of understand it, but it seems
silly.
like player choice should be at the forefront there, I would think. But
still silly to not just. It's almost like I know what's best for you. But you don't know me as the player individually. Like you can say, you know what, normal mode is good for like an aggregate most of the players. Like, and I respect that, right? You should make normal mode good for most of the players.
Yeah.
But I don't live in the experience of most of the player. I live in the experience of my personal playthrough.
Yeah.
So you should let that individual choose for themselves what actually is normal or what's easy or what's hard. You know, give them the chance. You've already built it, right?
You see, Yoshi-P, you're not dealing with an average game player. You're talking about an average game player who's ascended to a level beyond that of a normal RPG player.
I mean, I feel like it's the same way for someone who is bad at it, right? Like, imagine locking away easy mode and then not letting that person do it, even though the game is extremely tough. Like, well, yeah, but most of the people who played it thinks that normal is just right. Well, I'm not most people. Maybe I'm really bad. Let me choose easy mode. It's the same deal.
Yeah. Fluffy Dogs also says they do know you, Baku, and they know you will love NFTs.
Oh no.
Oh man. And the ultimate then versus now.
I will say this though.
Yeah.
The new president who stepped in, I'm kind of hoping that he would steer the ship towards AI development and not so much NFT. Just slowly walk it back. Like, well, we're willing to forgive you and just let you off the hook.
If
Square
you
Enix,
never say NFT again.
yeah, just walk away. They what was that newest project that they worked on that was like, oh, this is it. This is gonna be the NFT thing. What was it? I forgot now. Like Square Enix, do you guys remember? There was we talked briefly about it. They had this like ambitious project. Not much is known about it. They have a name and a logo.
Oh,
and
the
that's it.
Web3 game that they're working on?
Yeah, what was that? Symbiogenesis.
Symbiogenesis.
Symbiogenesis. Yeah, it's just like silence. Ever since they talked about that one time and got just like massive like backlash on it, we're just like, no one wants this. Like, I don't know if you understand. No one wants this. Period. And they're like, but NFT, no. Stop it. Just stop.
That is enough. Yep.
Yeah. We'll see. The last time they talked about it was in January of this year or so. It's been a couple months. They might still bring it back. You never know. Actually, not January. March. They talked about in March. It was the last time they really talked about NFT. So we'll see.
That's been 4 months. So well, maybe they'll turn.
See.
Maybe they have turned things around. We'll see.
Yeah, just focus on AI. AI is the way to go.
I don't know. I mean, maybe. I feel like AI is a way to scale things quickly, but you still need to refine it a lot. So hopefully, I don't know. We'll see what happens.
We should talk about AI in gaming.
Okay.
That could be fun.
Maybe that'll be our topic next week.
Yes.
All right. One last one from Fluppy, who says, Capcom forgiveness when they bring Breath of Fire back, remastered or another entity. The gamers thank you in advance.
Man, Breath of Fire. Yeah. Make sure to fill those polls because they keep asking about Breath of Fire.
That's right.
Yes.
All right, guys. Well, I think that about does it for tonight, but we'll be back next Sunday with more. Hope you enjoyed today's show, and if you did, give it a like or a positive review on whatever platform it is that you are enjoying the podcast on, and we'll see you guys in the next episode. Baku, any final thoughts?
No, not really. Just need to finish that space for the Unbound at some point.
We'll have fun with that, guys. Have a good rest of your night, everybody.
Bat.